We don't have to talk, we don't have to dance, we don't have to smile, we don't have to make friends. It's so nice to meet you, let's never meet again.
Andy Sixx was, for lack of a better term, an incredibly hormonal, crazy person. Teenager. That's what's interesting, is that when you exist in some form of the public eye for long enough, you can watch these iterations of your life go through in these different phases. And for better, for worse, you can see yourself change. And that's something that's interesting about social media in general now, is that a kid who's 14 now that's posting adamantly on Facebook and everything else will see themselves grow up. And I don't necessarily think a lot of them realize it. I started with social media with like LiveJournal and MySpace and that kind of stuff, and things that mostly now don't exist anymore. So it's almost like a reset in a way. It's harder to find my embarrassing moments than it is for some of the other social medias, because a lot of them are now gone. Doesn't mean they're not out there, and believe me, many kids find them and post them all over the internet. But as you grow up, you become different. Social media was so new when I was a teenager. I mean, I didn't have a cell phone until I was a senior in high school. We had dial-up internet. Things like immediate connectivity to someone else didn't really exist, so we didn't really know what it was. My screen name, or my name of Andy Sixx, was just like a nickname kind of thing. It was something that, I loved Motley Crue when I was a kid, and my dad always kind of, would mention the fact that, I'd performed like Nicky or whatever when I would be playing in garage bands or whatever it was. And so it just was like, oh, that's like a nickname. I didn't think that it would become a stage name. I just thought of it as a nickname, because we came from the AOL Instant Messenger generation of you just had all these different names. As MySpace wound up being a tool that was used to build an audience, and Black Veil Brides started around the time that I was in high school as well, I just used that name because it was something that I was quote-unquote known for, in the same capacity that there were people who were known for their name being like XXX, Hardcore, Death Trap at XXX. Like, there were people that were known for all these odd things. And when you look at MySpace as it is, it's such a specific snapshot of this weird time in the early 2000s when people became exceptionally famous for absolutely nothing for like a 3-year period, and then it kind of went away. And there's a few of us who had some form of MySpace fame in some capacity who parlayed it into careers. Some people more than others. Someone like Jeffree Star, who turned it into a big thing. And then there's other people that just didn't, it kind of faded away. So with me, I was very fortunate that I came in the tail end of that and was able to get enough success off of it to cultivate a fan base that kind of carried on past it. I was not a MySpace celebrity by any means, but I was someone who was able to utilize the media. So Andy Sixx was born literally just of MySpace, and it became a name that I then used. By the time the band was releasing material and touring regularly, I never wanted to be called that. It wasn't something that I necessarily thought of as myself. So by the time we released Set the World on Fire, which is like our first major label record, kind of our first real record, I had already decided that I wanted to change it to my real name, and so by the time we put out like the jacket for that record and everything, it said Andy Biersack. But the name carried on for years. It's not anything I have a problem with. Sometimes people look at their past and they the embarrassing things of their past are the things that they get upset about. And the reality is that to me that represents a young kid who was trying to build himself up to be greater than what he was, to protect himself from the fears and anxieties and things he felt. I'm someone who's always been very open about the fact that I face a lot of social anxiety. As a kid, I had terrible, crippling OCD tendencies to the point where it was very difficult for me to assimilate a lot with other kids. The way that I built myself up, not unlike my favorite comic book characters, was to kind of create this version of myself. So that's what Andy Sixx was. It was my Batman. It was the thing that made me more than Andy Biersack, the kid who was, in 6th grade being told to do the truffle shuffle and getting made fun of, Andy Black, the idea was to have an extension of Black Veil Brides. Because I was doing this project, I didn't want to have it just be Andy Biersack, because then it felt like it would be confusing for a fan to readily differentiate myself in terms of the musical tone from the band. So I thought that using Andy Black would be good, because Black, obviously being in Black Veil Brides, it was a nice extension of the band. And it just, I felt like it was a nice through line. We had talked about going back and forth using my name, using Andy Black, and I think my friend Richard Villa, who does all of my art and has for years, he really advocated the idea of doing Andy Black, and we kind of did some mock-ups of what it would look like. And I mean, this is a project that really has gone on for three or 4 years. I mean, not necessarily the music end, but just the idea of it. I have really old art that he did that was just kind of like concept stuff that we talked about, what would this look like and everything. And so it just kind of fell into place that way. And I like it. It's nice to be able to differentiate. As funny as it is to say things on stage like, you know, this is the Andy Black tour, it's nice to be able to differentiate. I'm not someone who, I think I'd struggle with going on stage saying, you know, welcome to my show. I associate more with the band dynamic, and so Andy Black is a character that is kind of, it's not just myself. When I go on stage, I'm performing as this character, and it makes it a little bit easier for me to present it.
We don't have to talk, we don't